There's an Aliyas Neshama also for somebody?
Well, we had the Aliyah Neshama. Have you got it there, Rebecca? Because I've just gone on.
Rochel Devorah Bas David.
Should have an Aliyas Neshama. And for everybody who needs, certainly we wanna say Aliyas Neshama for Rabbi Wallerstein, but I don't think he needs an Aliyas.
Yeah.
In the highest places. But anyway, just to say his name is Zachariah Shimon ben Rav Yitzchak, that we should have a connection to him. And I'm just gonna, I think that anybody who has any connection to Rabbi Wallerstein is, on one hand, just doesn't want to stop talking, and on the other hand, just cannot even say a word. So that's really how I feel. I have so many students who are his students, so many people's lives that he saved who I know. And I know Rabbanim, big gray beards who were his students. And that he paid for their tuition. And he kept up with them for 40 years, 40. So I really think, everybody who knew Rabbi Wallerstein or knew of him or who's learned from him knew that he was a straight shooter. He was straight as an arrow. He didn't play around, and he was strong. And so I just think that, we never understand when a person leaves this world. And we do know his own children said that he used to make deals with God all the time. Save this girl and I'll do this, save that girl and he'll do that. So, and we can't understand how it works, but one of the Rabbanim said that he's pretty sure that he made a deal with God and that he went before his time because he was very young. And just to bring Mashiach. So, and everyone knows that Rabbi Wallerstein, even though he was a gadol b'Yisrael, and he held himself to be like a nobody, but he knew the worst stories of people's lives. And so if there's anybody who can, I really hope that he's not resting in Shemayim. He didn't rest in this world. And I hope he's not, they say that how you live your life in this world is how you live in Shemayim. So he didn't sleep in this world a lot. And so I hope that he's not, that he's just saying to them, in his tough way, like, you got to make this happen, God. You just got to make it happen. You got to bring the geula because your kids are dying. You're dying spiritually and physically and emotionally and mentally. So you got to just do this. Make it happen, God. I hope that he's doing that. So I'm dedicating the shir to his memory and hoping that his merit will help us all and that he should come back fast, really, really quickly. For those of you who've been here in Eretz Yisrael, so you know that Rav Gamliel Rabinowitz is a very, very special person here. He's the head of you wouldn't know it when you meet him that he's a great Kabbalist because he acts in a very hidden way. But he and Rabbi Wallerstein saved many, many people together. And they each said about the other one, he's my Rebbe, he's my Rebbe. Now, Rav Gamliel is, he's considerably older than Rabbi Wallerstein, but he called him his Rebbe. So anyway, we need Mashiach, and we need to hold on. We really need to hold on tight, ladies. You have to hold on. You have to hold on with emunah. You have to say, we don't have any questions on you, Hashem. We just need you to help us. We're not questioning your wisdom. We're not questioning your timing. We're not questioning anything. The master of the creator and the master of the world is beyond our wildest imagination. So there's nothing we can question, but we can ask. We can say, Hashem, we have a tefillah, his most famous lecture series was called Avinu Malkeinu, and we daven. It says in the Siddur, Avinu Malkeinu. That means we're allowed to approach Hashem as our Abba. So just like a little child, a really little child, has no idea of the reasons for their parents' decisions, but can appeal to can cry and say, I need, I want. So we have to just keep davening, ladies. You have to spread this word. Everybody make sure to tell at least one person. Ask Hashem even stronger that we want him to redeem us, that we want to finally see him in the Beis HaMikdash, feel his presence. Of course, Hashem has no physicality, so he can't see him, but we can be enveloped in him. We can be like Har Sinai again. So everybody, if you could do me a favor. I don't think I asked you too many favors in the last couple of weeks. So if you could do me a favor, at least tell one person, and at least for ourselves, each one of us should try harder to beg Hashem, please redeem us. Make the whole world see your presence, Hashem. Make the whole world recognize that we have been holding on for 3,300 years, through thick and thin, through misery, through hardship, through pain, through Holocaust, through destruction. We've been holding on to your Torah. Every one of us is holding on to your Torah mitzvahs, Hashem. And we're a very tiny minority in this world. And it's true that in Eretz Yisrael, today they're celebrating Yom HaAtzmaut, even though today is only the 4th day of the month of Iyar. Tomorrow is really Yom HaAtzmaut. For those people who like to daven, so there's all these halacha questions about when people will actually say the tefillot for Yom HaAtzmaut, but really, and of course the government rabbis have to say everything we do today, because that's their job. They have to just make sure that the government stuff works, because the celebrations are today in honor of Shabbos Kodesh, Baruch Hashem. But the fact that we're able to live in Eretz, I just was privileged to give Ginny a hug in person last week, just a few days ago, right? That you were here. And so you come, you're coming. Rebbetzen told me that there's a plan to come again soon. Be'ezrat Hashem. So
I'll just say the first one is mother and daughter bat mitzvah at the end of May, 29th of May. But we are going to do, and we are going to get it this time to make a ladies one. We are going to do it.
Yeah, Be'ezrat Hashem. No reason not to. There's no reason at all not to right now. Start doing it and it'll happen. And remember that we have our shir and on Har Tzion by David Amel's Kever. Our Tehillim shir is going to be from there, the Be'ezrat Hashem. We'll figure out how to do that. So, but everybody we have to just try a little harder to ask Hashem, please redeem us. Bring your Beis HaMikdash, bring it down from Shemayim. Do it in a merciful way, without any more pain, without any more death, without any more confusion. And that's what we really have to do. Just ask Hashem. In the midst of all of our prosperity, we're very wealthy. I was just now in the supermarket. Today is a funny day. Usually on Yom HaAtzmaut we have a heat wave, and it annoys people because everybody on the day that they celebrate here, Yom HaAtzmaut and Israeli Independence Day, people like to go to the park and they like to do barbecues. But today's like winter. It's cold. It's unusual weather today. It dripped a little bit. It rained a little bit. For those of you who are here in Eretz, if it rains today, go out and collect some water. And so we're in a partial, it looks like we're in a partial redemption, because you can come to Israel and you have a place to escape to. But it's a big mess in the spiritual world. And believe it or not, one of the great Mekubalim here, one of the great Kabbalists here, said that there's an argument going on in the rabbinical world. Now, it's not like we have privy to these arguments, but in the rabbinical world, somehow the the 36 hidden tzaddikim, they're having an argument. Should we bring Mashiach now, or should we push it off a little bit and make more balei tshuva and give more people time to come back? And so really the group that's been saying push it off and let more people come back, they've been winning, because Mashiach was supposed to come a long time ago. Meaning within this time frame that we've been in the last, since, 30 years ago, but even maybe 70 years ago. But the Rabbanim, and that's what this Makubal said. He said that there's in those people who are really running the show here, the 36 hidden tzaddikim, they're divided whether they should, really push Hashem to bring Mashiach now. I guess they can do that, or delay. And they've been delaying it so that more people can come back and more people can go through what they need to go through so that they can have a pure soul. But now he said they all agreed that even though they prefer to delay it, but they can't anymore, because it's like once a woman is in giving birth, so that if a woman is giving birth early, they can give her all kinds of things to try to keep the baby in the stomach, in the mother. If it's too early, they'll give her all kinds of things. They can give drugs, they can give alcohol to keep the mother from having contractions. But once the birth has begun, once that baby is descended into the birth canal and the birth has begun, you can't stop it, because that would be dangerous to the mother, dangerous to the baby. So this Rav said that the Rabbanim realized that we're so far along in the process of revealing Mashiach, it's like the birth has begun, they shouldn't stop it anymore. And that was a big surprise to me. I was happy to hear that. So that means that things might get quicker, crazier, more intense. So hold on with Emunah, keep davening, don't let go of any mitzvahs, don't let go of anything that you've acquired, don't get scared, don't get confused, no matter what. You're a Torah woman, you're a godly woman, you're going to spread this message to people. Don't get confused. Don't get scared. Just hold on to the way how you were living. Keep living. Can you improve in mitzvahs? Absolutely. Let's, as much as we can, let's improve. Let's come closer to Hashem. Let's make him proud of us. Let's give him nachas. Whatever you can do to upgrade. But don't fall down, because we might be in for a roller coaster now. And, last minute of roller coaster rides are till it finishes. Okay, just to say the Omer today is 19 days in the Omer, which is 2 weeks and 5 days into the Omer. We're in the 3rd week of the Omer. We're in the 3rd week of the Omer, and the 5th day, which is called the week of Teferet, and the day, this is Howard of Teferet, which means we have to be so grateful today for all that Hashem gave us in health, in wealth, in Torah learning, in a rich life that we live. We have to be very grateful. Acquire Teferet in a Hod way. That means Teferet means perfect balance, perfect harmony in the body, health, Torah learning, truth. The way of the Rambam, go smack in the middle derech. That's the whole week of Teferet. It's a very good week. A wonderful mazel, good. It's a good mazel week. And today we have to be grateful. We have to keep all day long. Thank you, Hashem. Thank you for my health. Because Teferet is health and Hod is saying thank you. Every time you go out of the bathroom, say the bracha Asher Yatzar with a lot of intention. If you don't know it, open up a siddur. If you don't know what you're saying, say the Hebrew, then read the English. Say a bracha Rishon, a bracha Achrona with a tremendous amount of conviction today. When the bracha is on food. Today's a very, very, the whole week of Teferet is wonderful, wonderful. So, Be'ezrat Hashem, we should wish each other mazel tov soon. That's today. Okay, what pasuk are we up to? We're in Perek Kuf Yud Aleph. What pasuk did we get to? Did we do hey? Tefnas on Re'av. Did we do that? Somebody tell me. Who knows what pasuk we're up to? Hello, anybody there?
I think it was Dalet.
Did we finish Dalet? We did Dalet?
Wait.
I thought we Gimel. Finish.
Finish
Gimel, I thought.
Gimel.
Sorry.
Finish. That means we didn't do
Yeah,
yet.
we didn't start
Thank-
Dalit.
Okay, thank you. Let's start down. So remember, we're saying that this is a great parak of Tehillim. It's in alphabetical order. Every pasuk has 2 letters that begin its phrase. Zecher, and it's interesting, you know, I don't plan it, but Hashem plans everything. Today's really Yom HaZikaron. In other words, today's the 4th day of Iyar, and tomorrow is the 5th day of Iyar. But because tomorrow is Friday, and the Yom HaAtzmaut celebrations, people go to the beach, people go to the parks, and so if tomorrow were Yom HaAtzmaut celebrations and they would break Shabbos because people wouldn't come home on time for Shabbos, so they pushed earlier the celebrations of Yom HaAtzmaut, Yom HaZikaron to yesterday and today. But here we have, but today's really Yom HaZikaron. It's Dalid. See, we're up to Pasuk Dalid and the Zikaron in the first word, so Zecher. That's how Hashem works Tehillim. Tehillim is an absolute book of Ruach HaKodesh. Whatever you see in it, whatever you're up to, that's exactly what we need to be, and that's the energy of the world. Zecher Asali Niflosav. Hashem made a zecher, a memory, a remembrance, a memorial to all of the miracles that he ever did. What does that mean? So you know, we say every day we say zecher l'tzias Mitzrayim, right? Hashem made us remember. We're supposed to remember miracles. So you know that if you ever had a miracle happen to you, like it depends on the level of miracle, but if you had a really life-saving miracle, that every time you pass by that place, you say, Baruch she'asali nes b'makom hazeh. Thank you, Hashem, you made me a miracle in this place. Whenever you pass by that place, I told you, I'm sure I told you this. I have a cousin who was in a car accident, and she was really saved from it. Whenever she drives by, she drives by that place every single day. She always says that. So Hashem made us memories. Now you have to mute yourself. Thanks. Hashem made us a memorial. He wants us to remember all the miracles that he ever did for us. Remember the miracles Hashem did for us. Today's the Yom HaZikaron. We're remembering. Yesterday we remembered the people who died. Today we're saying thank you, Hashem, that you gave us back the ability to come into Eretz Yisrael and do things ourselves, for better or for worse. But we are independent here. And what is the biggest miracle that we remember is Chanun V'Racham Hashem. Hashem is merciful, compassionate. And here we are, the code word for Teferet is Rachamim, Rachum. That's the code word for Teferet. So in our pasuk we have Yom HaZikaron, the date, Dalid Iyar, and Teferet, which is compassion, Rachamim. In one pasuk. Just all these little clues for today. That's how you learn Tehillim. That's how you say Tehillim. You have to say Tehillim with your eyes open to see, where can I personalize this? Where can I say, where's Hashem? If I'm saying this, now today, this is not the Yom, this is not, Kuf Yud Aleph is not the day. Today is the 4th day. Kuf Yud Aleph is the 23rd day of the month. If you're doing the Tehillim by the day of the month, so it's the 23rd day of the month. But that's what we're learning. We're just, Rabbi Nachman says, wherever you're up to in Tehillim, whether you have the Seder in it or whether you just haphazardly open up and say or learn, you have to look to see the miracles. So thank you, Hashem, for all the miracles you've done for me. Thank you, Hashem. Each person has to say, and then say them, whatever, if you want. Thank you for all the wonders, the wondrousness of my life. The wondrousness of hashgacha pratis, of synchronicity. I was just here, it was just there, it was just happening now. All of that is a pella. It's amazing. So remember that. I want to quickly run. Okay, so that's done. And we see the Zion, the Ches, the Zecher starts with the Zion, Chanun starts with the Ches. That's where the Psukim are in alphabetical order. Teref Nasam Nire'av is called Elam Briso. I think we did this, but I'll do it again. Hashem gave food to all those people who fear him. The word teref means food. Now, it's an interesting word for food, because really we would usually call food Rochel or mazon. Teref is sort of like natural food, wild food. it has a connotation of uncultivated or raw, as opposed to manufactured. Teref is like raw food, and we also know that teref there's a word called treifa, right? Treif. When you say food is treif, what does treif mean? It's this word. Treif means an animal that was a kosher animal, but like a cow, but it was not slaughtered properly, or it died out of natural means, or it was found that when they inspected the lungs of this animal, they found that it was sick, and therefore we're not allowed to eat it. You know that every single piece of meat that is, I don't know the kashrus situation in terms of mass production. I don't know the rules, but if you have a farm and you have a cow, or you have a cow farm, and once a year, because cow meat, one whole cow can last a family probably between 6 months and a year. It's so much. I don't know if any of you do private shechita, but a cow is a lot of meat in that cow. So let's say once a year you shecht a cow. So you have to, the shochet has to do it properly, number one. Number two, then they have to open it up and check the insides to make sure that the cow didn't have the disease, any kind of a disease that would render it treif. So the word treif is from this word teref. So teref means food, but it could also mean unkosher food. So here when the pasuk says teref nasan lirayah, that Hashem gives food to those who fear him, is clearly meaning kosher food. But the word, that's one of those words that has itself and its opposite. So Hashem gives sustenance to those who fear him. So now you might say, listen, you might know people. How is it that every single important phone call comes when I'm teaching a class? It's so funny. You might know people who are Yirei Hashem, really God-fearing people, and they're having a hard time putting food on the table. You might know such people. The pasuk says, David HaMelech is screaming to us, God gives those who fear him food. So now, in the generation that we're in now, in the generation that we're in now, barely anyone who's a Yirei Hashem, who's a Yirei Shamayim, barely anyone who's a Yirei Shamayim dies of hunger. It should not be that anybody who's a Yirei Shamayim dies of hunger. So I've told you in the past, and I'll tell you again, that here, and I'm sure you have this in London also, and in Manchester, and in, I forgot Jenny where you are again, Wade, Hale, right? Yeah, something like that. Wherever you are, you're supposed to be back here, but Baruch Hashem, you have your place here, so I'm not gonna say anything. You're just on tour in England right now. So here in Eretz Yisrael, and I'm sure you have, and in Brooklyn, I know they have this. We became so wealthy. When I was younger, they didn't have these, but now they do. They have kitchens where they have restaurants. Masbia here in Eretz, so I forgot, they have different names for the different, it used to be called Meir Balanes, the kitchen, or the kitchens, that's what they used to call it, but now they give it a fancy name. Anybody who doesn't have food just goes and eats there. And this, Eliezer deliveries, my students in different schools that I teach in, they volunteer once a week to package food for Yad. I know people who receive every single week, they receive a box of food, chicken, challah, grape juice, whatever's on sale that week in Osher, noodles, whatever. So nowadays in Eretz Yisrael, and because people are so generous, so this pasuk is fulfilled. Nobody goes without food nowadays. We used to have, for those of you who know Eretz Yisrael, there's a big field that's never been purchased. I don't know who owns it. It's never been purchased and never been built upon. It's a giant field at the end of Givat Shaul Street, right as it enters the end of Givat Shaul Street, right next to near town. It's a huge field. And every single year, for years and years, they have a giant sale where they would bring shoes. It was always before Sukkot, before Pesach, or before Hashanah, before Pesach. They would have a giant shoe sale. They had thousands and thousands of shoes. A shoe store. And anybody went in, you have to, it was a big thing to buy new shoes before you entered. So everybody who had large families would go. And it was in a giant field so that there was no pushing, no crowding. And the kids would, people who had 7, 8, 10, 12 kids in a family would get everybody a pair of shoes. But it was a little bit embarrassing. Why? Because you were in the field, you were in that giant area, and you saw who else was getting shoes, who else was poor and needed to get shoes from that chalukah, from that sale. So they made it so that all the great people who are the Balei Tzedakah, they figured out another patent, another way to do it. And instead now they give out little credit cards. You know this? No more big sales. When the first time it happened, I was like, where's the sale? I felt bad, like what? How come they're not doing it? Then I found out they give you now, they deliver to your house, not even cash, credit cards. You get a little plastic card that has amount on it. The amount on it is dependent on, because sometimes people would, whatever, it had your name in it. That means you had a sign. In other words, they worked it out so that anybody can go into a regular store. Now the kids don't have to go into that sale and feel like they're poor kids they have to get from the street. You go into a regular shoe store, your mom goes and she pays it at the register with a credit card. But the credit card was given to her as a gift and it has a lot of money in it. That's called terachnas on the Rev. And I'll tell you that the amount of charity that we have here that should be really one of our biggest merits, how much charity people give, and in such a nice way. And in that, we have to remember that. Okay, now comes Pasuk Vav. Koach Masaf Yigid La'amo. This is the most famous, there's 2 famous psukim in this parak. This is the first one. I mean, all the psukim are famous, but these are the Koach Masaf Yigid La'amo Latzet La'nachal HaGoyim. Hashem's power, he declared, Hashem is making known his koach, his power, to give us, to give them means to give the Jewish people, nachalat goyim, the inheritance of the nations of the world. I'll say it again. Koach ma'asav higid la'amo. Hashem told us, higid, like the word Haggadah, like we just read the Haggadah, to tell over the story. Hashem told us, or Hashem has declared, his power, koach ma'asav, the power of his actions, so to speak, to give us the inheritance of the nations of the world. So this is the first Rashi in Torah. I'm sure if you think about it, you'll remember it. The most beautiful Rashi. I really shouldn't say that because every Rashi is beautiful, but one of the most beautiful Rashis in Torah, because it happened. It exactly happened in our day, and it's happening right this minute as we speak. So Rashi says, why did Hashem, famous question, Chazal, why did Hashem begin the Torah with Bereshis? In the beginning, God created heaven and earth. Why didn't he begin the Torah with Chodesh Hazelachem, the first halacha, which we received in Mitzrayim, that to make Nisan Rosh Chodesh, Nisan's the head of the month, and Pesach is the head holiday. Why didn't the Torah begin with that? If the Torah is laws and the connection that Hashem has, a particular individualized connection Hashem has with everybody. So go to that. And then go backwards. Go back to then tell the story of the Avos, the Imahos, right? Well, why not start with laws? Why start with the whole creation story, which was really so far away ago. And it's so hard for us to imagine it. Ad kedei kach, to the point where you really only learn Parshas Bereshis when you're a little kid. Nobody learns Parshas Bereshis once they get into middle school, high school, seminary. It's too hard. Rashi himself says that in order to understand the beginning of the first 2 prakim of the Torah, you have to be a master Kabbalist to understand the pshat, Just in a simple pshat, Rashi says. Anyway, so Rashi says, why does Hashem do that? Because Hashem wanted to say, I am the creator, and I own everything, and I'm going to give different lands to different people, because what's going to happen, says Hashem, and Rashi quotes Hashem, what's going to happen is, when we come into the land of Israel, the nations of the world are going to call us Ganovim. They're going to say, you're thieves. You stole land that doesn't belong to you. And so we're going to answer them back. Hashem is the one who created the world. Hashem is the one who gave us this land. It belongs to him. And this is the pasuk that Rashi quotes. Hashem is saying, Koach Masav, I created the world. I'm the creator, says Hashem. And I made the world of Asiya, Koach Masav, Asiya Lasso, to do. I made the world of Asiya. And I'm going to give the land of Israel to the Jewish people. It's my land to give. I'm giving it to them. So Rashi says that. Rashi says there's going to be a time when the land of Israel is going to be disputed. Now remember, Rashi lived in the year 1000. We had been in exile already for 1,000 years, and there was no Jews living, or very few Jews living here in Israel. We have a tradition that there were always Jews there was secret Jewish families living here that never left. They were, whoever they were, even when the land was barren, even when, let's say, Lahavdil, when Mark Twain came and looked around and he couldn't find people, where he found a person here, a person there, there was always a Jew here, a family that stayed, and they knew that was they were the shomrim, they were the guards, the guardians of the land. But anyway, Rashi says there's going to be a time when we're going to come back to the land of Israel, and people are going to say, who do you think you are? And we're going to say back to them, Hashem gave us this land. Now, when Rav Meir Kahana Zatzal, when he said this Rashi, he said, the only prime minister that will ever be successful in the land of Israel will be the one who will go to the UN and stand up and say this Rashi, because the UN thinks that they created the state of Israel, and they think because they created it, they can disband it. So he said the only way to not even to defend ourselves, but the only way to proclaim our mastery and ownership over Eretz Yisrael is to say this Rashi, and to say out loud in front of the world, God created the world. And since the beginning of time, the land of Israel was set aside for the Jewish people. And it's ours. And you can have 99.9% of the world, the whole world can have. The land of Israel is I don't know what percentage of the planet it is, like the tiniest percentage, but that belongs to us. And when you tell that to people, if you ask, let's say, sadly, many prime ministers and politicians who were here in Israel, their own children left. I'm not going to say names because they're also Jews, most of them, but many of the prime ministers and the politicians, their own children were educated in very, very secular left-wing schools and universities, and they themselves have a problem. They themselves have a problem with Jews living in the land of Israel, and many of them left because they say, "Well, why did you? Why do we have why are we here? The only reason we're here is because Hashem told us in the Torah. That's it. That's the only claim that we have to this country. We don't have a claim because of the UN. We don't have a claim because of the Holocaust. All of that is shtuyot. It's all secular externalities. We have to know that we're here because Hashem gave it to us. That's why it's a mitzvah to live here. That's why the land she's finally producing for us the most beautiful, gorgeous land in the world. So we have to come here. One of my friends who's actually Baruch Hashem, she finally got her Aliyah papers, and she's coming. A person who's had a hard life, and now she's on her own. And financially, it's not so simple with her, but she's coming. So she sent me a video that, now that Rabbi Wallerstein is teaching in Shemayim, so they're all of his, they're sending around a lot of different relevant clips. He has Go on Torah anytime. I'm sure you've all seen his classes because he's a fabulous, there's no adjective I can describe his teachings. So, if you're ever feeling, I'm going to give you a prescription now. If you're ever feeling confused about anything, let's say you don't know, should I make fleishiks for supper? Should I make milchiks for supper? Even confused about anything in your life, just go to Torah anytime. Open up any of his 700 classes. Just listen, because he was straight truth. So it just clears up your brain. It clears up the brain fog. People who are having brain fog, listen to Rabbi Wallerstein's classes. Anyway, so he gave a class and he said to his students, he said, nobody belongs in America anymore. Nobody belongs, we don't belong there anymore. He said, we have to get out. And he said he wishes that he was strong enough to lead all of his students, to bring them to Eretz Yisrael. He was in Eretz Yisrael all the time. He used to come back and forth, but to live here. So that's why we live here, because Hashem gave it to us. And that's the first Rashi in Torah. Now that when Rashi was making Rashi, when Rashi was writing his commentary, it was a big deal for him to choose which of the commentaries. It's actually it's in the first pasuk of Rashi. He had to choose. It wasn't insignificant, or let me say it this way: it was significant that he chose to bring this message for this first Rashi, because the beginning is the power. Okay, got it? So when you say this pasuk now, you make an asterisk in your Tehillim and you say, you have to remind yourself, number one, you should all be striving to come to live in the land of Israel. If you don't want to, then ask Hashem to help you to want to. If you can't, at least want to. If you can't want to, then wish that you wanted. Wish that you could want to. If you can, come here. If you can buy something here, or if you can support somebody here. And when I say support somebody here, even giving, what's the thing in America, in England, pounds? You have pounds, is that your money? So give 2 pounds, I don't know, is a pound like $1? Give 10 pounds a week to some Jewish family here. If it's too much for you, give 1 pound a week. Support somebody here. That was Rabbi Meir Balanes, Rabbi Meir from the Gemara. His whole reason for wanting people to give charity to Eretz Yisrael is because he said, it's to your benefit. If you're living outside the land of Israel, it's to your benefit. It's keeping you alive. It's like an umbilical cord, keeping you alive to Eretz Yisrael. The fact that you support this shir, by the way, I'm just going to tell you something. Baruch Hashem, every once in a while, I get paid from you guys. So that's supporting somebody living in Eretz Yisrael. So even supporting the shir, contributing, dedicating it, etc. All of that is connecting you to Eretz Yisrael. The Rebbe Reb Zusha said, and all the tzaddikim said, that if a poor person, Baruch Hashem, I'm not poor, but if a poor person takes charity, they're actually doing a favor to the one who's to the giver, to the contributor. Because the poor person is a receiver, that means that they're giving that person, the person just gave them $10. The person who gave $10 is now getting Olam Haba. Just by receiving something, you're giving much more than you're receiving. So this is the pasuk about Eretz Yisrael. And it's the pasuk that starts with the letter Chaf, and the code that we see in this parak is that every pasuk, that the psukim are in alphabetical order, and every pasuk has 2 letters, 2 phrases, right? So here, the phrase is a Chaf, begins with a Chaf, Koach Ma'asav Higid La'amo, and then a Lamed, Latzet La'am Nachal Asgoyim. The Chaf Lamed combination makes a word. You know what the word is? It's Kol. Kol means the totality of everything. And also Kol is one of the code words of Mashiach ben Yosef, and it's also a code word for Eretz Yisrael. Kol. Kol means everything. in this land we have everything. The tzaddik contains everything. Yeah, Yosef the tzaddik was a tzaddik, right? Mashiach ben Yosef is a tzaddik, contains all of our souls, fixes all of our souls, etc., etc. Okay. Maaseh Adam emes u'mishpat. Ne'emanim kol pikudav. Hashem's actions are truthful and just. They're fair. You know that, again, I can't stop talking about Rabbi Wallerstein. This week they're sitting shiva for him. So one of the things that he used to say over and over again, and his students, when we found out that he passed, so it was Monday afternoon here in Eretz Yisrael, I was in school. I was teaching on campus. And they came in to tell me. And one of his students was in my next class. I didn't know until I got into that class that she was a student of his, that he saved her life. And she couldn't stay in class. Like she had to leave. She couldn't. But one thing she said was, she said she physically felt nauseous, like she just had to lie down. But she said it's not her emunah. Her emunah is strong like a rock, because that's what he taught. He taught you don't ask questions. Hashem, everything Hashem does is fair. You don't ask questions. And that's why the truth is that even though people keep saying how are his students going to survive without him, the ones that he was still working on that have not been fully developed, we're worried about them. But the ones who are cooked through and through, their emunah is very strong, because he kept over and over again just saying, we don't ask questions. We just know Hashem, whatever Hashem does is the right thing. That's his puzzle. Maaseh Adav, the actions of Hashem's hands, are true, and mishpat, they're just. So one of the Rabbi Kessin said interesting thing in his shir Monday night. He said that it's pretty clear to him that Rabbi Wallerstein went before his time, and even though he did have an infection and whatever, there was a medical reason for his weakness. But this is what Rabbi Kessin said. He said it's pretty. I'm just paraphrasing him. You can listen to his shir on if you want to get the exact words. But he basically said that it's pretty clear, because he was very young, that he went before his time. And it was also pretty clear that he did that to somehow bring the Geula closer and faster, and that the reward for a person who does that is beyond our wildest imagination. So I don't know how those kinds of things work, and does a person do that consciously, or does the level of soul? I don't know how that works. But because a lot of people will say, how can Hashem have done that? We need him. It's true, we need him. So somehow, Geraldine, you have to mute yourself, sweetie. Somehow, it's fair. Hashem figured out a way to make it so that the loss and the gain, balance themselves out. And so Koach Masav, Maaseh Adav emes u'mishpat. Now let's say you're feeling scared or let's say you're feeling like you need a bolster in emunah. This parak is a very, very important parak to say. If you need your emunah strengthened, if you need your basic faith and trust in God strengthened, say this parak. Remember, we learned in the beginning that this is a parak for people who are looking to get married. This parak, Kuf Yud Aleph and Kuf Yud Beis, are one of those segula parakim. They're one of those parakim that people say. If people say, what should I say for so-and-so, she wants to get married. 111 and 112 are that. And 111, because it strengthens a person's emunah. So here, Hashem is good, Hashem is fair. I know it's pashut. These are very simple concepts, ladies. No one is saying here that there's a depth. I mean, of course it's depth, but it's simple words. But the deepest Jew is a person who can survive challenges with their faith intact. And all the mitzvot, all of the mitzvot are ne'eman. Ne'eman means faithful. What does it mean, faithful? What does that mean? It means it's good for you. The mitzvah are good for you. They're so healthy. They're so good for you. They create you a life. Anybody who's ever experienced, let's say, taken upon, let's say, people who are from birth. I'm lucky that I'm from birth, meaning I came my whole life. My parents were religious, and etc. But a person who, let's say, for example, never ever knew the laws of honesty. That we have laws of money, honesty. We also have laws of speech, how we're supposed to speak. We know, everybody knows we have laws of food, etc. So people who take those on, not because they were born into it, but because they became a bolster, they learned it later in life. A lot of times they'll tell you that they felt a tremendous advantage of just in their regular practical life of keeping mitzvah. I met a woman, she actually came to one of the schools I teach in. She, now she's religious, but she was living in, and she wrote a very nice book on modesty in dress, modesty in behavior. And she said that she was a completely alienated woman. She didn't know anything about Judaism. And somehow, now that we have internet, everything's available, Torah is available. Somehow she came upon a shir of some Rebbetzen talking about modesty in dress. And she said she never heard that concept. She didn't know about Shabbos, about Yom Kippur, Kashrus. She didn't know. I mean, she knew like whatever American people know, generic stuff like Judaism, like Rosh Hashanah, Passover, Matzah maybe, but she didn't know what Torah is. She said when she heard the concept of modesty, she was blown away, and she wrote an actual whole long book about modesty before she was shomer mitzvahs. Because that mitzvah to her, it appealed. She said her lifestyle was upgraded just because she began keeping laws of modesty before Shabbos, before kosher. Another student of mine, she came to Yiddishkeit. This I told you the story a few times. She was a very wealthy woman in Hollywood. She was in that industry. She was a script producer. And I lost touch with her, and I'm always hoping that she's going to contact me because I tell the story a lot, and I'm hoping that somehow this year will get, wherever she is in the world, because I lost contact with her, and the Rebbe doesn't remember her name. So she was a script producer, which means that in Hollywood, she went to college, she got a master's in, I don't know, whatever, theater or whatever, and also in writing. And she would read. She had, the rule is, in your previous lives, I'm sure you all know that there's such a thing called movies. In a previous life, remember when you were like younger, such a thing called movies, yeah? So how does a movie get made? So somebody sends an idea to a movie production studio. So she said that everybody wants to be rich, like Mrs. Harry Potter, the lady who wrote Harry Potter. So Mrs. Harry Potter, or the mother of Harry, whatever, that lady, J.K., I forgot her name. J.K. or K.L., I forgot. Yeah, Rowling, Mrs. Rowling, yeah. She wrote this book, and then she sent it off to publishers, and the publishers sent it off to, they published it, and then they sent it off to some Hollywood production society, and they made it into movies, and she became a billionaire. So everybody wants to get that. So all people who write books or write poems or write songs or write whatever have ideas. They send it off to the Hollywood world, and people have to read it and then decide if this is going to make is a good enough story to make a movie out of. So this lady, this student, this woman, she was older. She was a little bit older, and she was a producer, means she was supervising 10 people underneath her who would read. Every one of them would read all the, like 10 books a week of people who were sending them, authors who sent to the Hollywood studios that here's my book, you want to make it into a movie, I'll sell it to you. So, and then the workers who would work underneath her, they would read the books and then they would make a report and they would give it to her. And she had a very, very high paying job and a very, very powerful job. Because if she decided that a story was worthwhile making a movie, then they would buy it from the author and the author would become a millionaire and become famous and celebrity and everything. She said she devoted almost 20 years of her life to this job and she was at the top of her career. She had everything in LA. She owned an apartment, which was very expensive in LA. She owned a car. She had a job. She got her passes to the Hollywood events, whatever, but she wasn't married. So she went to an Aish event. Aish HaTorah has events in LA, and she went to an Aish event, a mixer, and she said, because she wanted to meet Jewish men, because she said in her industry, all the Hollywood people, even the Jewish ones, sadly, they're not interested in marriage. They're just interested in other things, but not in marriage. So she wants to get married. She wants to have a family. That Jewish she was. She went to an Aish event. She said that the event opened, doors opened 7:30, doors closed 8 o'clock. And what happened at 8 o'clock? To their surprise, there was a class. There was a shiur. And then only after they were forced you to listen to a Jewish class, then you could have the party, the mixer, whatever. So she said she got into this big room and all of a sudden they say, everybody sit down. Now we're going to have a few words by Rabbi so-and-so. And who did they pick the Rabbi so-and-sos? They picked the young, charismatic, cute, or maybe not so young, but charismatic and cute. They picked those kind of people to give a really, the attention span of these people is very short. You got to like, in 20 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, you have to like sell them the whole Judaism, or you have to sell them enough that they want to come back into another class. So she said the guy was talking about Shmiras HaLashon, about speaking the laws of the mouth. And she says she was in shock. And this is a direct quote from her because she's a writer. She said, Lashon Hara is the currency of her profession. That means you only get ahead in the world of Hollywood if you speak Lashon Hara, and if you embarrass people, and if you're snippy, and if you're snide, and if you say it in a cute way, in a cutesy way, you put down somebody, but not directly and indirectly. And she says she was shocked that there was laws about this. And that's what brought her to Yiddishkeit. She didn't know anything. She knew in general, but she heard the pikudim of Hashem, the rules of Hashem are so ne'eman, they're so good, they're so healthy for us. And that's what brought them. So now we who have been doing mitzvahs our whole life, we sometimes say like, oh, it's annoying, like I wish, whatever. We don't really say that, but sometimes it gets a little bit hard. No. They're good for us. Every single mitzvah, Hashem adores us. And every single mitzvah is a reason for us to rejoice. If you want to be happy, we learned Yud Test. We learned Parak Yud Test together at 19. There it says, Pikudim Hashem Yishar Mesamchei Lev. Hashem's Pikudim are straight, ne'eman, they're faithful, they're good for you, and they make us happy. So if you're not happy, ask Hashem, make me happy with your mitzvahs. Make me happy that I'm a Jew. Because the temporary happiness of I bought this and I bought that, this worked out, that worked out, that's temporary happiness. But the permanent happiness is spiritual happiness. Make me happy that I have the mitzvahs and the pikudim. Okay, I'm looking at my watch. I see that it's late. We're going to stop now. And I'm going to wish you a good Shabbos. I know that we're in Parshas Emor, you're in Parshas Kedoshim. And so that's good that we're, sorry, Zora Hinda, we're just stopping, we're just finishing the shiur now, you just joined. So right now, when I lived in Chutz La'aretz, I used to feel uncomfortable.
Just wait 1 minute.
When we were, wait, you have to mute yourself, just for 1 second. So I used to feel uncomfortable when I was in a parsha, when I lived in Chutz La'aretz. So if Eretz Yisrael was reading one parsha and Chutz La'aretz was reading another, I used to feel a little bit uncomfortable because I like to be in sync with Eretz Yisrael. But another way to look at it, a positive way, is to say that instead of one parsha that we're activating and we're bringing down the holiness of, where the whole Jewish world is now bringing down more holiness. Every Shabbos, we're reading 2 parshas. So until this happens until Tisha B'Av, ladies, we're going to be off center until Tisha B'Av, till the 9 days. So we're spreading more Torah in the world. That's how I'm going to look at it now. We're spreading more Torah in the world. You're doing Kedoshim, So that means the parshiyos are repeating. From Shavuos, the parshiyos are repeating. Kedoshim is repeating twice this year. Because we read it last Shabbos, we're reading it this Shabbos. And Emor, we're reading this Shabbos, we're reading next Shabbos. So we're repeating parshas, means double power. Okay, now Rebbetzen Dov has an essence to make, and I'm going to wish you a good Shabbos, everybody. Let's hear what you have to say.
I was just going to say thank you. My grandson wants to know how to bake the chocolate chip cookies. That's all. But thank you. And really, Be'ezras Hashem, we should continue to give each other chizuk and to hold on to the rope as tight as we can, because we really are feeling all over. So Be'ezras Hashem, we should really greet Mashiach very, 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 very soon. But thank you all for being part with us, and anybody who doesn't yet have they're coming to Manchester today. Our bookmarks are traveling up to Manchester. But anybody who doesn't, I tell people, just put it into your books and remind yourself every single day. It doesn't take more than, how long can it take to just say the 4 psukim, and we can add on the extra tefillah of Rebbetzen Silber, that we can just make HaKadosh Baruch Hu know that this is what we are all really begging for.
Can I just
Thank you, Devorah. I saw your message.
Hi. Can I just? I'm sorry. I don't know where we are. Where are we up to in the in Pirkei Avos?
We're in Pirkei Avos, you said?
Yeah.
We're this week
in Tehillim.
Which one?
Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. In Tehillim. I'm maybe mistaken. In Tehillim.
We're 111.
Yeah.
And we just finished Pasuk Zion, Pasuk 7.
Okay, fine. Could you put on the Joanne? Could you put the 4 pasukim on?
Yeah, I'll send it. I don't know how to do it on the actual on here.
Okay.
What number? Just send me your address. What number are you? 137. What are you?
117.
Say that again.
117.
117. Okay, I'll let it drop into you today.
Oh, thank you so
Good
much.
Shabbos, ladies. Good Shabbos, good Shabbos.
Good Shabbos, everybody. Good Shabbos, everybody, and thank you.